Welcome into Scoop and Score. My name's Tanner, and today I'm going to be breaking down number 9 UCLA at number 10 Oregon. This game's Saturday, October the 22nd at 3:30 on Fox. And if you wrote the Pac-12 off after week 1, after Oregon got destroyed by Georgia, I'm here to tell you there's still some good football being played out west. And this game might be the game of the year in the Pac-12, if not UCLA at USC. I think that game's at USC. Either way, UCLA versus USC might be the game of the year. If not, this is. And it's at 3:30 on Fox, so there's no excuses not to watch this game. It's now at midnight. I think UCLA showed they're absolutely a contender in the Pac-12. And I've been saying for weeks now that I think they might even be a contender nationally. And I think this is probably the game that we find that out. So to go ahead and jump into the numbers a little bit, we'll start with the UCLA offense against the Oregon defense. Go ahead and throw the raw statistics up on the screen. A couple numbers that jumped out to me from the raw statistics is, first off, the UCLA pass offense, number 25 in the nation, against the number 113 pass defense in the nation in Oregon. And I'll go ahead and jump into some yards per play statistics real quick. UCLA averages 5.45 yards per carry, 9.62 yards per pass attempt, and 7.24 yards per play. Oregon gives up 3.66 yards per carry, 7.65 yards per pass attempt, and 6.13 yards per play. And those numbers translate for the Oregon defense to 74.7% of opponent rush averages, 103.3% of opponent pass averages, and 93.6% of opponent total averages. And what that means to me is that Oregon's defense is mediocre at best. They're not at all a very good pass defense. 103.3% is not at all very good against the pass. I would have to look at the rankings for that. I don't have my own individual rankings. But I know for a fact that's bottom half. That's probably bottom 25% in the country. 103.3% of opponent pass averages allowed. But that's the numbers for you. We'll go ahead and talk about some players to watch for UCLA. First off being DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, their quarterback. I think he's a dark horse Heisman contender. I don't think he can win it, but I definitely think he can and probably will make it to New York at the end of the year. If UCLA wins this game and if they beat UCLA and go undefeated in the regular season, he's definitely going to be in New York. Again, I don't think he can win it. I don't think he'll have the numbers to beat C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young even, or Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. I don't think he'll have the numbers to win the Heisman, but I definitely think he'll, especially if they go undefeated, he deserves to be in New York, and I think he will be. Another player to watch for UCLA is the running back Zach Charbonnet. Dude's been a stud, solid running back his entire college career. While he was at Michigan, he was a stud, and now that he's at UCLA, he was the top running back in the Pac-12 last year, and I think he is again this year. And then UCLA's top receiver to watch out for, his name is Jake Bobo. Again, I think the UCLA passing attack is going to be able to exploit Oregon's secondary a little bit, so watch out for Jake Bobo in this game. We'll go ahead and switch sides of the ball here. We'll talk about the Oregon offense against the UCLA defense. UCLA's defense is a little bit more balanced, I think a little bit more solid than Oregon's defense overall. They're not great against the pass either, number 88 against the pass. And then Oregon is the number 8 scoring offense in the nation, or number 8 total offense in the nation, number 9 scoring offense in the nation. Their passing attack isn't as great. Just in general, I don't think their offense is as balanced as UCLA's is. But we'll go ahead and jump into the numbers a little bit. Oregon is averaging 6.37 yards per carry, 8.04 yards per attempt or pass attempt, and 7.02 yards per play. And the UCLA defense is giving up 3.01 yards per carry, 6.34 yards per pass attempt, and 4.87 yards per play. And those numbers translate to 68.1% of opponent rush averages allowed for UCLA, 97.8% of opponent pass averages, and 87.2% of opponent total yardage averages. What those numbers tell me is that UCLA is, again, a pretty solid defense. I don't think they're a great defense or elite defense by any stretch of the imagination. They are a really good rush defense, and they're a mediocre. I would say 97.8% of opponent pass averages is right around mediocre. That's probably right around the 50% mark in terms of national rankings. Some players to watch for Oregon. The Oregon offense are going to be Bo Nix, the quarterback, obviously. And then Oregon splits carries with their 2 running backs. The 2 running backs are Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington. I would definitely watch out for those 2 because Oregon relies on their run game a little bit more than their pass game. And then the top receiver for Oregon is Troy Franklin. I think that's probably their best bet, is exploiting the UCLA secondary a little bit, so I would watch out for him. We'll go ahead and talk about the projections or predictions for this game. Starting with Vegas. Vegas has this game as Oregon as a 6-point favorite, Oregon -6, and the over-under for this game is at 70.5. Another statistic I'm going to start putting in my videos that I think is kind of worth talking about is ESPN's FPI percent chance to win. And ESPN puts this game at Oregon at a 71.5% chance to win and UCLA at a 28.5% chance to win. One thing that I don't know if I mentioned, rain is expected to be a factor in this game. There is expected to be rain at kickoff time. So just that being a mental note, make a mental note of that. How does UCLA pull this quote-unquote upset? Early lead in a hostile environment, road environment, always plays a big factor in my opinion. It always helps the road team. So an early lead would obviously help UCLA in this game, especially with the rain being a factor. I think they have to be able to run the ball effectively. I think whoever runs the ball, little spoiler alert, I think whoever runs the ball is probably going to win the game. And then just to play off of that, they have to be able to stop Oregon's rushing attack, and they have to be able to force Bo Nix to beat them with his arm. I think if they can force Bo Nix to beat him with their arm, I think UCLA is probably going to win. And they can run the ball. I think UCLA is probably going to win this game. So we'll get into the model projections a little bit. The model has UCLA at 477 total yards, 4.1 yards per carry, 9.9 yards per passing attempt, and 6.8 yards per play. And it has UCLA scoring 38 points. The model has Oregon at 431 total yards, 4.3 yards per carry, 7.9 yards per passing attempt, and 6.1 yards per play, and scoring 35. So the model has this game at UCLA 38, Oregon 35, so it actually has UCLA favored by 3, which I thought was interesting. I was curious to see what the model had on this game because these 2 teams are pretty similar, and I personally think UCLA is a little bit better, so I'll use that as my segue into my predictions. I'm going to ride with the model pretty close. I think the model's right on UCLA. I got UCLA 38, Oregon 31. One thing I will say is if the rain does play a factor, I think all those numbers are a little bit inflated. So I'd take a field goal to a touchdown, 1 score away from each team. So I think it'll be a little bit lower scoring if the rain does play a factor. But I do have UCLA winning this game. Again, I'm predicting the game on a neutral field, or not a neutral field. I can't predict weather, or I can't predict how weather's going to play. I can just assume. But as far as making predictions, I just assume a good weather game. And with that being a fact, or with that being said, I got UCLA 38, Oregon 31. The model has 38-35. I'll talk a little bit why I think that's the case. Why I think UCLA is going to pull this upset, I guess, if you want to call it an upset. I just really think UCLA is the more balanced and therefore better team, both offensively and defensively. I think the combination of DTR along with Zach Charbonnet on the ground is probably a better combination than Bo Nix and the 2 Oregon backs. And I definitely think it's going to be more effective in this game, especially even against a good Oregon rushing attack. I just think those 2 are more dynamic than the rushing attack from Oregon. And I honestly just think UCLA is going to be able to run the ball better in this game. If the rain does let up, or if the rain doesn't play a factor in this game, I think that favors UCLA fairly heavily. Again, I think Oregon's secondary is pretty bad, and UCLA's secondary isn't great, but I think DTR is also a better passer than Bo Nix, so I think UCLA will be able to exploit Oregon's bad secondary more so than Oregon will be able to exploit UCLA's secondary. And then either way, I think this game is going to be close. Again, I just think Oregon or UCLA is going to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively. I think they're dynamic. Their backfield's a little bit more dynamic. DTR and Zach Charbonnet is a little bit more dynamic than Bo Nix and their Oregon stable of their 2 backs. Again, even if rain does play a factor, I think UCLA is probably going to be able to exploit the Oregon secondary for a big play or 2 or 3, a couple of big plays throughout the game. And I think that's probably going to be the deciding factor in this game, is the fact that UCLA is going to be able to exploit the Oregon secondary at some point, especially if the rain doesn't play a factor. So yeah, I got this game at 38-31 UCLA. I got UCLA pulling the upset. I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks about this game, especially since I don't think it's a secret that most people don't watch West Coast football as much as they do the SEC or the Big Ten or any of the East Coast conferences, more so just because of time than anything. When most of the West Coast games are kicking off at 10 or 11 o'clock when most people are going to sleep on the East Coast, it makes them pretty hard to watch. So I am curious to see what everyone thinks on this game, so give me your scores and thoughts down in the comments. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, a like, and a subscribe. I greatly appreciate it, and it helps the channel out a lot. Again, give me your scores and scores and thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Peace.